Hello, Las Vegas, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Golf at the Park, Angel Park Golf Club's weekly interview show. I want to thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. We're going to start right off by introducing Joe Keith to the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks
Joe,
for having me.
thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Joe is an interesting character in town. Similar to Big Matt in Alaska, I know a lot of people in the golf community in this town. But Matt, I just met when we started the show, and Joe, I just shook hands with for the first time this morning.
Yeah,
even though we know each other for a long
chatted
time.
on Instagram and everything.
Yeah. And he has his own podcast. He's involved with a lot of different groups, a lot of different players. So we're going to get into all of that. Let's start at the top or the bottom. How old were you, and who introduced you to golf?
So I started playing when I was like 8 years old, right? So I played for roughly a year with my dad here.
At Angel Park?
At Angel Park, yeah.
At 8?
My grandpa was a marshal out here.
Fun.
So we were here all the time. My dad was here all the time. And then I specifically remember 17 on Palm, I couldn't clear the canyon.
Right.
So my uncle hands me his golf club. It was a Big Bertha at the time. And I couldn't clear it, but with his, I cleared it. I was like, Dad, you got to buy me new clubs.
Now, are you 8, 9, 10 years old at the time?
Yep. So he refused to buy me new clubs, so I stopped playing because I thought I needed new clubs.
Now, why did he refuse to buy you new clubs? He wanted you to
I guess. I don't know. I tell him all the time. I'm like, we could be living it. Yeah.
It is expensive,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I'm 8 years old at the time, so I get it. I mean, I have a son. I get it. But yeah, so I stopped playing, and then back in 2018, I had a buddy. He's like, let's go to the range. So we went to the range. Well, actually, I went to a birthday party at Topgolf, and then I told my buddy, let's go. I want to go. So yeah, then I just picked it up. My cousin was playing. I had one friend at the time that played golf, and he couldn't play every weekend, and I was trying to play it every weekend. Cut my teeth out at Wild Horse. And
So how old were you then?
So 2018, 20.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No. Yeah.
2018.
I don't even know.
5 years ago is when you got back into the game.
33, yeah, 33.
And you started at Wild Horse, which is probably a good time to bring up right on the way out. I like dropping little back stories and inside information. Our studio here is up on top of our maintenance building here at Angel Park. So we have to drive through the maintenance yard. Darden Gardens, or Darden Mix,
Gardens.
is our superintendent here, director of agronomy, and he was at Wild Horse.
Yes, he was.
And he met so many of you guys that now when I pal around with these guys out on the golf course, they all want to see Darden and talk to Darden.
Yeah, we were driving up.
And we just got to see him. So talk about Wild Horse and the beginning, that first few months.
Yeah, so I would just go out. I'd book a tee time at 6 a.m., ask my buddy if he could play. Most of the time he couldn't. And I just started playing out there, ended up meeting Darden, played national, because these were like the $50 courses back then, right? So, I mean, rates have gone
skyrocketed
out of the roof. Which,
doubled.
Yeah, which we talk about all the time on Chasing Daylight. But
and we're going to get to that podcast.
But so that's where I played a lot at Desert Willow too. But I just kind of was there every single week, sometimes Saturday and Sunday, sometimes just Saturday. But that's where I really started playing, and then I really got into the game, and just it unfolded. I started meeting all these people, and I met Matt, the breakfast ball at TPC Summerlin during Shriners, and it just kind of snowballed.
So just being in the attendance, watching the tournament.
Well, we had Instagram, of course, is like the link for everyone,
right?
So
you already knew each other, but
correct.
You introduced yourselves there.
Yep. So it just snowballed. It's wild.
It's so fun. So let's break it all down, because you didn't get a set when you were young. What was the first set you bought yourself?
When I first started, I had my dad's hand-me-downs, King Cobra 2s or whatever. And then when I really knew I loved the game, went on Callaway Golf Pre-Owned, which I suggest anybody that's getting into the game new, CallawayGolfPreowned.com is a great place to start. They have sales all the time. So that's where I just kind of gradually built a set on there, because they do crazy deals, crazy sales. So
that's a good tip.
Yeah, so Callaway XR irons, and I forget what driver, but those quickly went out the bag. And, as I got more into gear and everything, just, you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah. No, and it's fun to talk about. What was your practice regimen like back then? Were you just learning on the golf course, or did you find yourself turning into a range rat?
There is a couple ball marks in our den. There's a scratch on the ceiling in our den.
So everywhere.
The backyard, I had a net. I felt like I needed to get 30 minutes in a day, just swinging. I would grill something on the grill and swing clubs into the net while I was cooking. But yeah, everywhere.
How's your improvement been, or early on? Let's start there, because I don't even know how good of a player you are.
Yeah, so I got good fairly quickly, I think. I've always been good at adapting to things. As a skateboarder back in the day, I got good at that. And I like to understand things, right? Dive deep into how things work. And
that's the same answer Mike the Video Wizard gave, is that he was a skateboarder. And the way he compares it to golf was really interesting to me, fascinating to me. I'd never thought about it. But, it all being on yourself, being really difficult thing to do, right?
I've always said skateboarders are like ninjas, right? Because they adapt to their surroundings. So golf, you kind of do have to adapt to your surroundings, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're skateboarding down the street, you might see something and it's just like eyes wide open, looking for anything that you skate,
Mm-hmm.
So that's I kind of relate that to golf in that way. Like you have to adapt quickly. Different courses, different shots.
So going back to 18 and maybe even a little bit earlier, I'm guessing that you start consuming golf content, right? Because that's how you meet a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
So talk about how that started, who you started following, because that's going to end up inspiring you in what you wanted to start doing.
Yeah, I think one of the first things. So I went to the Top Golf range and I was, YouTube and golf stuff. So I come across Eric Anders Lang. I think this is before he started Random Golf Club. So it was like Adventures in Golf.
Yep.
Right? So he would just go to the craziest places across the world, look for the stories, play the course, tell the story. I got really into that. So that's when I was like, hey, I want to go play. And it just popped up on my YouTube. I wasn't looking at golf and it just popped up. So it kind of found me. But yeah, I was watching everything I could possibly find. A lot of Rick Shields back then. Peter Finch,
Yep.
just anything I could.
Those
get my
guys
hands
come
on.
up a lot because
Yeah.
they were the early ones,
Yeah.
the OGs that were starting to do it before anybody else. I love that you said that the algorithm, I don't know if you used the word, but it kind of found me. Golf found me.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible how that's working. I've never
Yeah.
thought about it that way, but that is how it works.
Yeah, well, they're listening on the phone, so
It's so funny, scary, and true.
Yes.
And awesome because it's done all of this.
Yeah, totally.
So when do you start thinking, I want to do this?
So Mike, who's been on the podcast, we work together, and we just kind of, every day I was in there. He's told the story a little bit.
Mikey Brusino. But
Yep.
yeah, let's tell it again.
So every time I come into work and he saw how jazzed I was, and I'm like, dude, you got to play. And he's from Cleveland, and I was like, there's Cleveland golf clubs out there. So, and he was watching me watch all this stuff, and he finally got into it. So, and then, as we're at work all day, we're watching all these content creators. We're like, we should probably try and do something, right? So
hitting greens comes first?
Yeah, so hitting greens, we would play, and I would just, if I hit a green, I would just yell, hitting greens, So that's kind of where that came up with, and, we were just kind of talking about things, and one night I just started the Hitting Greens IG.
Yep.
And just posted a picture from Desert Pines, and yeah, that's kind of how it started. I was just posting pictures of golf courses because I was looking for what shape golf courses were in. So I would look for the tag if I was going to go play Angel Park, right? So Saturday, I would look at recent pictures on Instagram to see what kind of condition it is, see what people are talking about, the greens, how are they, and then I would do the same when I played so people could find that picture to see what it looks like.
That's really cool. Robbie Knickerbocker said that he started the same thing with Greenskeepers.
Yep, Greenskeepers.org, yeah.
So explain what they were doing, and then, I guess you just did. I love the fact that people who don't understand necessarily how this is working and what is happening with social media, the fact that you were using it as a scout.
Right, yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to look at it, because I talk about all the time that, I was in charge of the Instagram since Instagram started, and all we used it for was to say, oh, we've got this coming up. And
right,
it'd be a flyer.
Yeah, like a promotional tool.
And a lot of golf courses still only use it that way. And yeah, I never put two and two together about, I liked that hitting or Greenskeepers was doing that, but the more I realized that people are following it for that is really fun.
Yeah. That was kind of, looking out for the golfers coming behind me to show what it's like out there, you know?
So what happens after hitting greens? What comes next?
So this is kind of like during COVID time. So me and Mike ended up having a lot of time on our hands, right? Obviously, we weren't working much, so we started doing YouTube videos. And then we did, I don't know, seven episodes, something like that. We would just go to a course, highlight, try and do something. There's a lot that are unedited that Mike hasn't finished, but because he started working with Roger. So, and then that's kind of where I kind of peeled off, and Ryan Hardenbrook, the Cigar Don, he left town. He was the original co-host of Chasing Daylight. So Matt asked me to join.
So Chasing Daylight started before you.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
So Matt started Chasing Daylight with...
his name is Ryan, Cigar Don on Instagram.
Cigar Don, and then he left, and he asked you if you wanted to come on and do the show with him?
Yeah, there was like 10 episodes, because I had been on like one when Brian Goff was on there. So yeah, and then he asked me when he left if I wanted to do it.
Well, let's talk about the progression of that then for a minute before we come back there. Because Chasing Daylight, you've got hundreds of podcasts under your belt now.
Yeah, I think we're like 245, something like that.
And you've grown.
Yes, we have
There's
grown.
a lot more hosts. So tell us how that happened and just kind of your progression and what your thoughts of over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we just we started, me and Matt, it was still during COVID, so I had a lot of time. I would leave work early and I would head over to his house, record the podcast. Every year we do a Vegas course ranking, so that was like the first kind of series I was on because I had played most of the golf courses in town. So then he asked me to jump on, and Jeremy came on later, and then we just added Dan. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and even then, it's like there's so many people that I've met just from people that listen,
Right.
It's just a whirlwind, man.
It's really interesting. I'm in the process of trying to get all ours up on podcast right now because, like I said, we're learning this from scratch and just kind of, it's fun watching everybody's progression because everybody's a few years into this, it seems like, and some of the people are only about a year into this, but the learning curve is getting faster, right?
Yeah.
Content is getting better even by people who are just starting to do it.
Yeah.
Because they've had so much time to absorb it.
Yeah.
How did your absorbing change? Because I know that on Chasing Daylight, you guys talk about the golf tournaments religiously. So all of you guys watch a lot of golf.
We do watch a lot of golf. We are golf sickos, psychos, nerds, weirdos. That's us.
Right.
It's deep within the soul. So talk about everything from courses to PGA to live to any bean and cheese burritos for those that listen.
Bean and cheese burritos have come up.
I have a fascination for bean and cheese burritos. So
well, I just listened to your podcast last week or 2 weeks ago where you guys were talking about the film Passion of the Christ. So I mean, you guys cover a lot of topics.
So I usually
I loved it, by the way. I laughed. It was great.
I'm kind of the antagonist, in the story. I end up drinking a few beers Monday nights, and I just kind of, pick at them and just come up with crazy stuff.
It's great because that's the type of stuff that sticks out. Do you have any other? That was one of my favorites. Do you have any episodes that you've done that really stick out that you guys talk about where you're like, oh, remember when that happened?
There's a lot, and it's kind of, we're 240 something in, and there's just so much. But we've had great guests on, like we had the golf homie on. Like I flew out to Oregon and played with him, met him there, which was really cool.
How fun.
Carolina Pines, man, I forget his Instagram, but talking to him, gave me suggestions on courses when we went to North Carolina, and it's just, there's so many moments in the podcast. But if I had to throw it back to just one, it's probably when I first jumped on as like the co-star or not
host.
With my first guest appearance, right? When it was
yeah.
with Brian Goff, Juju Bombs, Roden, and Cigar Don. So we set up in a backyard and we were just all hanging out, and I was super geeked because I didn't know a lot of people at the time, so it was just, it kind of opened the world to me up. So that'd probably be the moment, I would say.
That's cool. Let's talk VGN. Let's talk Vegas Golf Network.
Yeah, Vegas Golf Network has grown crazy. It's wild. It started as 5 guys on Instagram, just in a group chat,
wanting to play competitively.
Yeah, exactly. So we would, at the beginning, it grew up to like 20, I think, in Instagram put a cap on it. So someone would just organize everybody throwing $20 just to play a little mini tournament, and it just kind of started from there. But yeah, it's
Now you guys have a schedule throughout the whole year. You play
schedule
all
now,
over
yeah,
town.
yeah.
Do you guys play out of town dates yet? Have you guys tried
Matt's
to
working on the schedule for next year, so I think we got Mesquite and St. George on it.
Fun.
And we were talking about Laughlin Ranch, because I don't think we've been out there, but
Laughlin Ranch used to be a sister course of ours back when we were OB Sports, and that's a really nice little golf course. It's fun. I don't know if you've been out there.
I haven't been there. I've heard it's great. I know Robbie loves it.
Yeah, it's a fun golf course for sure. So let's go back again. So VGN, what else is happening at that time? Does Cocky and Lucky start around then?
So Cocky and Lucky yes, it started because all the original Cocky and Lucky guys kind of started in VGN, and then they kind of peeled off because they didn't want something as competitive, because VGN kind of turned into like a more competitive, not necessarily like a weekend round with buddies, everyone throwing $20 in.
Right.
So it kind of turned into like a schedule and a tournament, like a real deal thing. So Cocky and Lucky kind of peeled off and did their thing.
Being called a social group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so which guys started that?
That is Gary, the Johan. Mike, Josh, Robbie, Cliff. I think that's the originals.
So a lot of the birdie chain guys, they
Yep.
kind of morphed into that eventually. That is so fun. I just love all of that stuff. So going back then, how's your progression since then? You said you got pretty good pretty fast. Are you stuck anywhere now? Or
So yeah, I got pretty good pretty quick. I ended up having like a exceptional round according to the USGA, and I dropped down to a 2.3.
Wow.
Since then, it started to become, which is just crazy, right? So this is kind of my transformation. But if a round I didn't break par, it kind of felt like it was whatever.
Yeah.
Once you do it once, it's like nothing competes with that. So I found myself trying to get back there, and I was just like, it's not worth it. Enjoy the time. I don't know if anyone else has used the phrase, but since I've coined the phrase soul golfer, which I've gotten made fun of on the podcast a little bit. But
soul golfer, what's that?
So to me, I was trying to think of the definition because I knew we'd probably bring this up. But so I went to Bandon, right? And Bandon is a
Mecca.
It's a Mecca. It is a spiritual experience. It is my favorite place in the world. So I went there, and it just kind of opened up like the magic of the game to me. I don't know how to really explain it, but to me, it's about the moments, right? So I live for the shots where you're in the trees, because I want the opportunity to pull off something cool.
Hero shots.
Yeah. And if I fail, whatever, the next one I have the same opportunity, right? So
That's a great way of looking at it. You almost, so you don't mind when you hit it
not
into
at
a
all.
bad spot.
No, not at all. No.
What a great outlook.
Yeah, not at all.
that had to be relieving on yourself. After you went to Bandon.
Yeah.
It almost seems like it was an awakening.
Like an eye opener kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when you're stuck in the trees and there's this little window. Yeah, you might not pull it off, but if you do, that feeling is pretty awesome.
That is the best feeling. Well, let's talk about milestones. Do you remember when you first broke 80?
TPC Las Vegas. I had a putt for birdie to make 79. Yeah.
Good course to do it on.
Yeah.
What about the first time you shot par?
I haven't shot even par. I've shot 2 under at Chimera.
So you've never shot even par, but
No.
you've shot 2 under.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is Chimera par 72?
I think it's a 72. That's what I was kind of thinking. I shot a
So
70.
you probably shot a 70.
Yeah, I shot a 70.
So you haven't broke 70 or you haven't shot par yet.
Yeah.
Even par. But
Yeah.
you broke par, so you don't even need to
Yeah.
shoot even par anymore. Now the next one's 70.
Yeah.
But you don't even mind if you get there.
No, I mean, like in the tournaments, yeah, I do.
Well,
obviously,
sure, you want to play your best.
Score matters, right? It does to a certain extent, but it also doesn't. Like you shouldn't live and die by the score.
Right.
Kinda
No,
like.
I think that's a really important part. So let's talk a little bit about purist golf and new golf, because you were into it at 8, right? Like you hit the ball over the canyon and you liked it, but then through spite got away from it. Then you got back into it. How would you get, you have such a good golf knowledge that I'm going to ask this question in a weird way. How do you think your golf outlook, game, perspective would have been different if he would have bought you a set of clubs then?
Oh man, I don't even know. It's
think about it. Take a beat, because I think it's really interesting that learning in those times, I think that you would have just been more of a purist, and
Potentially,
yeah, and that's an interesting way to look at it. What do you think about the differences in all of that and the changes in golf, Live Tour? Where's your stances on some of those things that golfers tend to disagree on?
Yeah, I mean, live golf, it's whatever. I think the way it went down was just kind of, speak your truth, kind of like it was kind of like, felt like it was like under a veil, and a lot of players didn't want to talk about it. And there's so much stuff in the world where it, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, and it's, to me now, it's just enjoy yourself, kind of.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, most things don't matter.
Right.
And I use this phrase. So one time, this story, my buddy, I was at my buddy's house, and his brother-in-law was like a cyclist. And he was like getting on us, like, why do you love golf so much? And I told him, I was like, we can't play all the time. Like, you can hop on your bike right now and go ride it. We can't play a golf course all the time. So while you're out there, enjoy it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So just a couple of weeks ago, Alex Wilson posted a piece called it was taken from this show. I posted the piece about the gallery drop. Have you seen this?
I did see that. Yep.
The gallery drop rule. So we just hit 1 million views on it. So it's Angel Park's first viral piece.
Yeah.
And it's been really interesting. Thank you. No, it's exciting.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally.
it's silly,
Absolutely,
but much like golf, the numbers don't matter. But to
Right.
show that it's
Working.
it's working is the fun and rewarding part. The interesting part about that to me is the breakdown of why it's so popular. And it's about 85% people absorbing this rule and loving it.
Yeah.
And then it's 15% absorbing this rule and hating it, despising it. Like, why don't you just throw everything out of golf? What's your take on that? And why do you think golf is buried into people's blood so much that it's causing political style debates?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's weird to me.
I think it's totally situational, which he did mention. It's situational, and that's with most things in life and in the world. However, you can use it if you want or don't. Like, there's no reason to get upset about it.
Right. Why would it be that big of a thing? And there's one guy, he's in Sweden, and he's for 2 weeks now, he just keeps coming in and engaging with everybody. And I'm almost I admire his spunk.
Yeah.
I mean, it really means a lot to him.
Yeah.
But I think those kinds of things are funny.
It's one of those things, right? So if that dude's playing with a group and there's 3 guys that play the gallery drop and he doesn't want to play it, then nobody plays it.
Right. Yeah. It is really pretty simple. Like with most things.
He probably doesn't like par 3 courses either.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That's funny. That's an interesting way of that's true. Let's talk Full Swing, Netflix, because season 2 is coming out in a couple of months.
Yeah.
What did you think about the first one?
I thought it was good. I think they're going to find their bearings a little bit better as it continues. I think it was good. I liked it. It made me like some of the players a little bit more, players that I already liked, or understanding some of the stories behind why they play or how they play. Like I ended up liking Fitz a little more from his story.
Yeah.
I mean, I never minded him, but it just kind of let me in the door a little bit, and which was awesome to see. Like my wife loved it, which was awesome.
I found that my wife and one of my daughters liked watching it, which was fun.
Yeah.
Right. It was open to people that aren't just golfers, which I thought was cool. And I think my favorite part was hearing players' perspectives about players. Right. Hearing Max Homa talk about Joel Damon and why he's the type of guy that should be able to compete with them. And then they'll flip it to the next scene and Damon will say, no, but I'm not built like that.
Right, exactly.
You don't think that I've spent my life doing this and
totally.
competing, and I know where my spot is.
Right.
And maybe I could get up there every once in a while, but those guys aren't built like me. I thought that was interesting.
I think Joel came out of that pretty good.
I think he had, him and Finau probably had the 2 episodes that were the best.
But Joel has like skyrocketed. Like he's on the Netflix commercial now, and
he's doing so many cool things. I remember right after it aired, or a month or 2 after it aired, he was the only thing in my feed because he had so many sponsorship deals, people coming out and sponsoring him. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
What other golf content are you consuming now?
Man, I did not
Do you find yourself running out of time now because you're involved in so many other things?
that, and I got 2 kids now. So it's mostly Instagram. Not so much time for YouTube anymore. But yeah, I mean, when me and Mike started hitting greens, my hitting greens kind of became my personal account because I have another account, but I haven't been on there in
I only know you as hitting
yeah,
greens.
3 or 4
I
years
asked
ago.
you your last name this
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. So it just kind of became my personal page. So that's when I go on Instagram, all I see is golf stuff
Yeah.
or friends, like people I know, and that's
Right.
it. I don't deal with news or Trader Joe's or whatever the case may be. It's all golf. It's all my friends.
What do you think about the future of golf? Do you have thoughts about what you'd like to see? Do you have thoughts about things you don't like about golf or you'd like to change? Let's talk about your attitudes and your thoughts on the game as a whole.
Well, the future of golf, I mean, there's a lot of sim places popping up, and the new Tiger Rory thing. I think people are bagging on it a little bit, but I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be a good watch. It's going to be entertaining. So we'll find out in January, I think, is when it comes
Yep.
out. So that's obviously going to happen. As far as what I would like to see, I would like to see more golf courses being built. I know that's not going to happen probably out here, but adapting to, some of my favorite courses are natural, rustic kind of vibe, right? I'm somewhat into architecture, so I would love to see more of that style out here, or at least something like that out here.
I love that you said you're into architecture. What are some of your favorite courses?
Well,
Bandon.
all of them at Bandon. Tobacco Road was a lot of fun. Strantz. Tom Doak is one of my favorites. I've only played one of his courses, but you could just tell.
You could just tell.
Yeah, I mean, I used to love Pete Dye, but his stuff isn't as natural. Court Crenshaw is great. Yeah, I just love that. Gil Hance. I haven't played well, I have played the Cradle at Pinehurst.
Have you played Weekopaw outside of
No,
Scottsdale?
I do want to get down there.
The Crenshaw course at Weekopaw is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I
And
would
when
love
you
to get
talk
there.
about the architecture being the stuff that you like, that is what it is.
There's a big boom in it, but it's not on our side of the country. You
Right.
know, like Landman, King Collins, who did Sweetens. Landman, I really want to get to Landman. Kyle France is doing Cabot Citrus Farms in Florida, north of Tampa. Broom Sedge, Old Barnwell. There's so much stuff happening in architecture, but it's on the other side of the country.
I don't know about any of this stuff, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. So that's what you're spending your time following. How do you
Yeah.
know about all these things?
I don't know. I just kind of became involved in it. Or Friday Golf, great podcast for architecture. So started listening to them a long time ago.
Shout out Friday
Yeah.
Golf.
So it kind of just got into it, and I don't know as much as most people, but there's people that know the shapers and those guys and which ones they shaped at this course, and they can tell, which is awesome. So that's what I'm really into. But there's a lot of projects happening, and it's all Instagram that I see, so.
What are some of the things you don't like about golf? Is there anything? Or that you would change?
I hate the prices right now.
Sure. That's an easy one, right?
Yeah.
And it's so tricky because working in the game, it's a strange thing because trying to define the line between how much do you really need to make and how much is
Right.
is supply and demand and upkeep. And if Angel Park is an example, just the example that I work at, wants to put a lot of money into the place, then they need to charge more, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's frustrating for everybody, and we try to keep coming up with ways to make it as accessible as possible. But it's a big problem, and I think that's the biggest problem golf's always had is it's a little elitist.
That's true, yeah. But I think it's happened because of the boom, the recent boom, the COVID boom. I think the main issue with golf currently is nobody's really educating the newer golfers. Like when I was 8, my dad taught me the etiquette,
Yep.
and he would not be happy if I didn't follow it. So I think people are just picking up the game and going out, which is great, but someone needs to educate them somehow, some way.
Kevin Swain from Durango Hills sat here and said that exact thing. He said the lack of etiquette is what is frustrating to him, and his least favorite thing about golf right now is that it needs to, and it would be nice if some of the influencers keyed in on that a little bit, right?
Roger's doing a decent deal.
Is Roger
at that.
Steele
I think
doing
so,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing a decent job at that, but there needs to be more of it. I mean, ball marks
Random
on
Golf
greens,
Club does a good job of it too. Those guys all repair their ball marks and other people's ball marks. And I'm not saying the other groups don't. I think a lot of these groups and a lot of these guys do, but they're also tending to be the people who have been in it for a couple of years and then they've grown to want to do that. They didn't necessarily get taught that from the jump.
We talked about this the other week on CDP, but it's look out for the people that are behind you and present the same golf course to them. You know, every time I'm on a green, any ball marker I see, even if it's not mine, I'm fixing it. You know, I fix 2 every green. If I see it, I fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset that people need to make because greens are probably one of the most important things that's going to turn someone off from a golf course. Mm-hmm. If the greens suck or they're not rolling well, people are going to be upset because they're going to think that birdie putt should have went in and it lipped out or whatever. So take care of the greens, fix your ball marks, fix your divots, rake your bunkers.
Yep. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
What's your favorite thing about golf?
The moments with friends, the moments between shots.
Let's talk about some of your favorites. What are times that you've had with Mikey or Matt or the guys that a year later you guys still talk about? Because everybody has those.
There's a lot. To pick any out is tough.
Are they more traveling things when you were traveling?
I've become like a golf trip guy now. You know, it's like I want to go see more of what's out there. You know, because I've played almost everything here. I haven't played Shadow Creek, Summit, or I did play CC, the Air Force course. I haven't played that yet. I haven't played Sunrise Vista. And most people won't want to go play that, but I want to go play it.
Sure, just to play it.
Exactly. Yeah, I collect logo balls, but I want to see more and experience more. Golf trips are my favorite thing in the world to do. Yeah.
Do you have any on the docket?
We do. So this year, me, Dan, Trey, and Julian went to North Carolina, Pinehurst area. So it's all around our birthdays. So we're trying to do something again in January. We can't pick it out. Someone wants to go to Hawaii to get away from the cold, but like, who cares if it's cold? Let's go to this course because it looks.
You guys are running out of time.
Yeah, we are. We're trying to figure it out, but But other than that, we do have Bandon booked for next August. 8 of us are going there, so I'm
8 this time.
Yeah, we booked it a year and a half out. I'm excited to see the faces of the guys that haven't been there yet.
That's fun. Who else going?
Me, Matt, Jeremy, Julian, Bob West, Dan, Colby, and Trey.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
So all these guys get together. Are you guys just going to get a big Airbnb or?
Well, so yeah,
we decided all that.
Yeah, we typically do Airbnb or VRBO, but when we go to Bandon, we got some rooms on site. So
that's great.
Which is the way to do it. I've been twice now, once off site and one on site. And to go for your first time, it's probably better to be on site because they truck you around wherever you need to go. It's amazing.
Which of the courses at Bandon's your favorite?
Pack Dunes, Tom Doak. Yeah.
That was not a hard one for you.
No,
to come up
not
with.
at all. No, the others kind of bounce around. I would say Sheep Ranch is last, but we did the Solstice, so that was my first time there. So
I remember that. That was just a couple months ago.
Yeah, so we did it in I don't even remember years behind me anymore, but that was the first time I was there. So you play all 4 courses one day. Mm-hmm. So we did that. No carts, obviously. For those that don't know, we ended up doing 85 holes because we played the par 3 course after. Yeah,
what a long day.
Walked about 30 miles. What was it? It was like 6 a.m. till 9:40 at night. Yeah.
So how was the next day?
Oh man, my Achilles were just.
I can't imagine.
You know,
yeah,
rebar.
That's a grind.
Yeah, but a smile on your face the entire time.
That's so fun.
Yeah, there was like an 80-year-old guy on one of the buses. He's done it for 20 years since the first one, and he's 80, 85 years old, still trucking it out there.
That's awesome. How have you done in the Vegas Golf Network tournaments?
Not very good as of late.
I'm sorry to ask that.
No, so last year I won the first one at National, which I love National. And I play in the net, but I had beat the gross guys. And then I would have beat the gross guys again in the next one. So I moved to the gross and then just kind of fell off. I haven't done well, but I did make the finals this year, which are going to be out at Revere, 2 days. So we're playing each course.
Is that coming up?
That's coming up December 10th and 11th or something like that.
Good luck.
So,
How
yeah,
many
thank
guys
you.
get into the finals?
I think it's 10 from each division, I want to say. Something like that.
Wow,
Yeah.
so how big is it now?
There's 4 divisions. There's a gross, a net, and I think it's like 2.5 to 10 or something, and then it's 10 to 18, and then anyone above 18, something like that.
And roughly how many players do you have?
There's about 100 signed up, and we get about 60 per tournament.
I didn't know that you guys had. I knew that your groups were about that size on the golf course, but I didn't know you had that many players.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, it's a good group of guys for sure.
That's really cool. And that all started from just Matt.
Yeah, I think it was me, Matt, Adam, Jeremy, Reed, and Kyle on Instagram. Just kind of started there.
That is so fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to play the par 5. If you're
go.
ready, you want
Yeah.
to play the par 5 of questions? We ask the same 5 questions every week, come up with different answers. You've watched the show more than a few times, so I don't need to prep you with those.
Yeah.
What's your favorite golf movie?
So I think JR was the first one to say YouTube, something on YouTube. Was JR the first one?
JR was the first one to say Full Swing. Who was the first one to say YouTube?
Someone did.
Yeah,
Because that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I enjoy any golf movie. If there's golf in it, I'll watch it. But for those that don't know, No Laying Up on YouTube does great content creation. They do, I think it's yearly, they do a thing called Tourist Sauce. So it's like 10 episodes and they go travel and they play a game the entire time. And it's amazing. DJ Pyhowski is doing great, who writes for Golfer's Journal. The cinematography, the coloring, everything on it's great. So if you haven't watched that, anytime that drops, or even forget the other one, but they do another one where they're given a budget with Neil and Randy, which that's great. Anytime those come out, that's where I'm going.
That's what you want to watch.
Yep.
That's cool. I got to check that out.
Yeah.
No Laying Up.
No Laying Up, great podcast.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Really cool. Number 2, what's your favorite club in your bag and why?
Lob wedge, 60 degree.
Okay.
I feel like you can be just so creative with it. Plus, I love hitting flop shots.
Sure.
Hence the ball marks.
A good flop.
in the den.
Good flop shot is you like hero shots.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, they're hard to hit, but when you hit it right,
I've had a
so
lot of
awesome.
practice with them, so I pull them off probably 85% of the time. I would say.
What's your least favorite club?
I don't really have a least favorite. No. Anytime you're hitting a golf shot, it's
You
good
have
time.
the best perspective on golf, and
Yeah.
you know so much about golf. I'm finding myself getting intimidated in the middle of this interview, and that's never happened before. Question number 3. What's your aiming fluid? What are you drinking out on the golf course?
It depends. Summertime, it's hydration packets, Liquid IV, or Relight. If you want some Relight, hit up Trey. He's got a discount code.
Relight, Trey.
Yeah. If I'm in a tournament and I'm through 9 holes and I feel like there's no chance, I'm picking up a hazy IPA.
Oh yeah, so you will
Yep.
have a beer out there every once in a
Yeah,
while.
most of the time I don't. If we're on like a trip and it's like our second 18 of the day, then I'll start it. But
Do you notice it affects you?
there is like a fine area where you can get into that zone and it can help or it can hurt for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting dynamic that we're looking for, right? Is that there are people that it helps. It seems to affect everyone. There
Yeah.
are people that it helps play better, and there are people that it hurts
Yeah,
their play,
totally.
which is fun.
Most of the time I don't pick it up right away. No,
Yeah.
definitely don't.
Question number 4. How do you deal with anger, frustration on the golf course? This used to be do you have a swear word that you repeat? We've changed the show as to lose that. But if you swear, or if you break clubs, or if you've thrown clubs or done them in the past, what's your anger outlet on the golf course?
Never thrown a club, never broke a club. I don't get too upset, but if I do say something to myself, it's never really been a cuss word unless I throw an F before it, but it's usually just mutter trash to myself. Just say
Yeah.
trash.
Trash to
Yeah.
yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, really upset at yourself.
Yep.
Do you find yourself being able to release it then and move on faster when you do that? Or do you think that that's actually even more detrimental?
No, that's just me saying, that was a bad shot.
Yeah.
I don't really get angry.
On to the next.
Yeah. Yep.
That's fun. All right, last question, and my favorite question. What's your dream foursome? You get 3. Any 3 people, alive or dead? I'm guessing you're going to go play Bandon, but I want to know where you're going to play too.
Yeah, it's so hard to narrow this down. So I have I have a few.
Yeah,
But they're in,
we've had plenty of people say 5 or 6 names.
they're in categories.
Oh, okay, cool.
So family would be my dad, who can't play anymore, my grandpa, who is no longer with us but never got to play with him, and then the future older version of my son.
Yeah.
So that's the family one. That's Bandon. Pros, I would go Max Homa, Harry Higgs, and Joel Damon.
Oh, what a great lineup.
Probably,
I would want to be in that group.
Probably play Goat Hill Park. I would love to throw Trevino or Mo Norman in there, but, there's only room for 4.
Mo Norman, I would have bet would never be brought up on this show. That's awesome.
He's a character, man.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Architects, I would go Alistair McKenzie, Tom Doak, and Mike Strantz, and we would probably play Tobacco Road.
Oh, okay. Wow. I love all of those answers. So we're going to let you get away with that.
And then one more, the podcast crew.
The
Bandon.
podcast crew would be fun.
Yeah, that would be another one at Bandon. So
yeah.
That'll happen in August next year. So
that's awesome. So good. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you coming
absolutely.
on. It was a good time. Check out Chasing Daylight podcast. We're going to have everything listed underneath where you can go check out Joe and his many interests and hands in golf. So thanks again, man.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
This is fun.
Until next time, we'll see you next week. Hit them straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.
Later.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.